All right, so the Maimer is Shabbos Parsha Shmini. This is the 35th Maimer in the Chelik Gimel of Mamori Meluket. And it was Shabbos Parsha Shmini that the Rebbe gave this Maimer. It was Mevorchim HaChodesh Ve'erev Rosh Chodesh Iyar. So they benched the month of Iyar, but it was also Rosh Chodesh. So Rosh Chodesh Iyar was on Sunday. And therefore, the Haftorah that they read was Mochor Chodesh. So the Maimer is Mochor Chodesh, Hey Tovshin Chav Ches. And then later on, it was printed um, in a booklet for Beis Eir Tov Shinun Aleph Tinose, in honor of Beis Eir Tiferes Shebitiferes, the birthday of the Rebbe Maharash. This was printed as Chodesh Eir Shnas Tinose. We'll do the Maimer. So that's from the Haftorah of Machar Chodesh, of Erev Rosh Chodesh. So the Pasuk says that Yohanan was telling to David HaMelech when he was running away from Shaul, from Yohanan's father Shaul, who was pursuing David. So Yohanan said to him, Machar Chodesh. Next tomorrow is the Chodesh, is Rosh Chodesh. V'nifkadeto, when it will come to the meal and you won't be there, v'nifkadeto, so then you're going to be remembered. And the reason is ki yipoked moishavecha, because your seat will be empty, because you won't show up for the meal. So it'll be yipoked moishavecha, and because your seat will be empty, that's how you're going to be remembered. People will talk about you. King Shaul will remember you because you're not there. That's the post. Maybe Admur Maharash. So the Rebbe Maharash, Bal Yoim HaHoiledes de Beis Eir, the ones whose birthday is on the second day of Eir. B'mamore al posik zeh, in a maimer on this verse of the posik v'yomer le'oneson, Masha Pirush Rashi, this that Rashi explains, al ha-posik on the posik, shen v'nifkadeto hu loshin zikorin. That vinifkadeto is the language of remembering. Vinifkadeto means you will be remembered. And v'yipoked uloshen chisorim. Yipoked means you will be missing, it's a lacking. Loshen chisorim. Upirush vinifkadeto ki yipoked mishavechohu. What does it mean you will be remembered because your seat will be lacking? Is dal yidei sheyivkoid mokoy meshavoi shel David, through the fact that the place where David HaMelech sits is going to be missing. Al yidei zeh yiskoir Shaul olo. That way, Shaul will remember about him. The fact that his seat will be missing, so then Shaul will remember him. So it continues the Maimer. The Hatam shenemar v'nifkadeto. So why does it say the lotion of v'nifkadeto? If it's just to say you will be remembered, v'loy v'niskarto, why doesn't it say niskarto, which is a more common language than nifkadeto, to say remembering? So he explains over there, Nifkadeto gam loshin yichud. Nifkadeto also means a language of union. V'nifkadeto, you will be united. It represents, the word of nifkadeto is used in the context of intimacy. You use the language over there, it says v'nifkadeto. It represents a very strong level of yichud, a strong level of union, kiloshin razal, yoshin yichud, as our sages of blessed memory say, chayiv odom livkoides ishtechulu. A person has to remember his wife before he goes on to a trip. He has to be intimate with her. So the word livkoid represents union, intimacy. So that's the meaning v'nivkadeto. What is the union that we're talking about here? The Rebbe is going to explain that David is Malchus and Shaul is Bina, which is the source of Midas. So basically, Shaul is Zo, and Nifkadeta means the union, the intimacy from Zo and Malchus. Ki Shaul hu Bina. Shaul is the level of Bina. As the Pasuk says, Ki Moshe Kosov, Shaul Merechoves Hanor. Shaul from the Rechoves Hanor, meaning the level of Bina, is called Rechoves Hanor. The level of Chochma is the Nekuda. The level of Bina, the Meich HaBina, is the widening. That's the Rechoves Hanor. The Pasuk says that Shaul was from Rechoves Hanor, from the widening of the river, which is level of Bina. The level, the Rechoves Hanor, Bina, is Shoirish Hamida is the Zoh. Bina, that's the root of Midas the Zoh. So that brings Shaul to the level of Midas because Shaul is Bina, which is the root of the Midas Zoh. Kamesha Kosuv. Mi bara Ela. Literally, it means who created this. But in this context, we're saying the me is that gave birth, is the root and gives birth to Ela. Ela, that represents the Midos. The me, which is Bina, me is 50, Nun Share Bina is me. So the me, which is Bina, who Ashoidesh, the Ela Midos, that is the root of the Ela Midos, as the Rebbe brings the source over here, but the bottom line is that Shaul represents Zo, Bina, which is the source of Midos, which is Zo, and David, who Malchus, and David is the level of Malchus. V'lochei nemar v'nifkadeto. And that's why the Pasuk uses the Lashon v'nifkadeto. You will be remembered, meaning you will get the union, it will be a yichud. Sheshaul yifkoid as David. And that v'nifkadeto, that Shaul will remember David, meaning like Chayiv Odom Livkoid, which means Zo, Hainu Sheyi Yichud Zo, Sheshor Shebebina Shaul. It'll be the union of Zo, which is rooted in Bina, which is Shaul, Umalchus, which is David. That's the Yichud Zo Umalchus. So the reason he explains why it says V'nifkadeto is because what's going on over here is not just Shaul will remember David. Shaul is going to remember David, to unite, to be intimate with David, which means to be mamshich from the level of Zoh into the level of Malchus. Because Shaul, which is Bina, the root of Midas, will remember and be mamshich to Malchus, which is David. Bezehu HaKesher. And this is now that we understand what the nifkadata means. Why is this all taking place on Rosh Chodesh? Because on Rosh Chodesh, it's the time when there is a union between the sun, which is the Zoh, and the Levana, which is Malchus, because the Levana, right before Rosh Chodesh, it's non-existent. We don't see it. So the way the moon becomes visible is when it starts receiving from the sun. That's the yichud of Zoh and Malchus, of the Shemesh, Zoh, with the Levana. Zehu hakesher dinivkadeto ki yipokid. Moishavecho imocher chodesh. So this is the connection from that you will be remembered, and the idea of yichud, that ki yipokid moishavecho, because Malchus, because David will be lacking, and that happens by Mocher Chodesh, by Chodesh, when it's lacking, and then you get the Levana to be shining again. So that's the connect book in Mocher Chodesh. Ki be'erev Rosh Chodesh hu helam v'hester haLevana. Because before Rosh Chodesh, the Levana is blocked and obscured. V'ad sheberega shelifnei hamoiled lo nishar mimeno gam nekuda. The instance before the moiled, before the new moon, there's nothing left of the moon, not even a point, nothing left. So ba'al yidei zeh, and then through this, through the fact that there's nothing there, so the new Nase Achakach Mocher Chodesh, that brings the new moon. The Mocher is going to be Chodesh. Moilad Halavana Mechodesh. There is a new rebirth. The Levana appears anew, which is the Yichud Shimsha V'Siara. That's when the sun and the moon get together. Now you see the shine of the moon because it receives, it's united together with the sun. So that happens on Rosh Chodesh. So just like physically on Rosh Chodesh, there is the yichud of this Shemesh and the Sihara. So Kumakein hu b'malchus Chodesh haLevana. So the same thing happens with the Sfiras HaMalchus, which is the root of the Levana. Dal yidei sheyifkoid moishavecha shel David Malchus. Through the fact that the place, the seating of David HaMelech, which is Malchus, will be Yifkoid, will be lacking. Al yidei zeh dafke v'nifkadeto. So dafke through this will be remembered, will be the Yichud Malchus im Zoh. That brings about the union from Malchus mit Zoh. When there is the lacking, when Malchus is missing, like by Erev Rosh Chodesh, so that brings, when Rosh Chodesh comes around, the union of Malchus with Zoh. And the Rebbe says, so this is all from the Maimer of the Rebbe Maharash explaining why the Nifkadeto is used over here, because this Nifkadeto represents the level of Yichud of Zoh and Malchus, Shaul Bina Sheidish Hazoh with Malchus with David, and the reason it takes place on Erev Rosh Chodesh because on Rosh Chodesh there is the Yichud of the sun and the moon, which was lacking, and through the lacking there becomes a new Chodesh, a new union on when it comes to Rosh Chodesh. And the Rebbe says now, not only does the Levana get from the level of Zoh, but actually it gets from higher than Zoh. Through that union of Zoh and Malchus, they get the level of Keser, a higher level of Zoh. So the Rebbe says, V'lechaira yesh lahoisiv. So lechaira, we can add to this. The Sheberish Chodesh Nase Yichud Shimsha Zo V'Sihara Malchus. The fact that in Rosh Chodesh there becomes that union of the Shemesh Zo together with the moon Malchus, Ushenimshach bahashemesh zo mibchinas leilo min shimsho. That is that in the shemesh in zo, you not only gain, it brings down in zo mibchinas leilo min shimsho, a level that is higher than shimsho. Shimsho is zo, but you get a letter, zo gets a higher level than the level of zo. Keser shelemaylo meishtalshlus. You get the level of keser, which is higher than ishtalshlus. Kamesha like the pasuk says, "Ba'atoro she'itra loy imoy biyoim chasunosoi." The pasuk says that there was a crown that the mother of Shlomo HaMelech, the pasuk says, she crowned him on the day of the wedding. The day of the wedding is the day of the yichud, the union of Zo Malchus, Shemesh v'Yoreach. So the chasana, you get the level of Atorah, you mamshich from the level of Keser, you mamshich from the level of crown. Shebichdei sheyiyeh yichud Zo, in order for it to be the union from Zo together with Malchus, Yom Chasunosei, which means marriage. Marriage is to connect the Zo, the masculine with the feminine. That's wedding. So that's Zo im Malchus. Yom Chasunosei. Hu al yidei shenimshech boy atorah. That is by drawing down the level of atorah keser. Keser allows for the yichud of Zo im Malchus. How is the keser brought down into Zo on the day of Chasunosei when there is the yichud? Hu al yidei habina. That's bina. That's why it says atoro she'atoro loy imoy. Imoy, aim is bina. Avis chachma, bina is imoy. Imoy, bina gives the crown, gives keser to Zo for the purpose of the union. Move on, and based on this, that you get the level of keser to come down through bina to Zo, it's even more understood. Hakesher, the mocher chodesh im v'nifkadeto ki yipochet mishavecha. The idea, the connection between mocher chodesh with this concept of v'nifkadeto, when there is lacking, and that's yipochet mishavecha. Ki inyan mocher chodesh, because what is the idea when we say that tomorrow is the renewal, there's again the moon, which means that there was a obscurity. We didn't see the moon. As the Rebbe said, the minute before, second before the new moon, there was no moon. So what, and Mochar Chodesh, Masha al Yidei, Ha'helem Behester Ha'levono, Shebe'erev Rosh Chodesh, that through the block and the obscurity, not seeing the moon, that is the Erev Rosh Chodesh, Nase Berosh Chodesh, Yichud Shimsho v'Sihara. Then on Rosh Chodesh it becomes that union of this Shemesh and the Sira, when the Levana is once again connects to the Shemesh and begins to lighting. Why is it that before there needs to be, or before it takes place, the obscurity of the Levana, we don't see the Levana on Erev Rosh Chodesh, so that it can become later on that union? Why is that? Because that subjugation in the fact of the effacement, self-effacement of the Levana, there is no Levana, that's the subjugation of the Levana. Mashemis alemes umistateres, the fact that it is obscured and it is hidden, ad sheloi nishar bo afilu nekuda, to the extent that there is nothing left, even a drop in the sun. Magia libchinas hakeser. The fact that bittel reaches to the level of keser, which is higher than hishtalshelus. Keser is not part of the hishtalshelus. That's hishtalshelus begins with atzilus. This is keser, which is higher than hishtalshelus. Shemimenu nimshach, from the level of keser, which is higher than hishtalshelus, extends al yidei habina, through bina hakoyach al yichud shimsha mesira, the power for this union of shimsha mesira. How could the shemesh and yireach, the sun and the moon, you have this union? They can only have it through the koyach of keser. How do you get to keser? Through bittel, through non-existence. Why? Because keser is higher than ishtalshelus. It's a non-entity of ishtalshelus. The bittel of the levana, self-effacement, reaches to the level of keser, which is higher than ishtalshelus. And then, as we said, through keser, we can have the yichud of shemesh v'yoreach, of zoh and malchus, through bina b'torah she'oter eloi imoy, bina, to be mamshich the level of keser. U'kamekain hu inyan v'nifkadeto ki yipoket meshavecha. And likewise is the idea of v'nifkadeto. There's the connection to that, to Rosh Chodesh. Because when he says to v'nifkadeto ki yipoket meshavecha, you will be missing on the place that David HaMelech sits. He will be remembered ki yipoket meshavecha, because your seat will be lacking, you won't be there. Shal yidei sheyivkot mokom meshaveh shel David. The fact that the place of where David sit is going to be lacking, malchus, meshaveh shel David, malchus will be lacking. It's like the levana disappearing. There's no malchus. Al yidei zayiyah v'nifkadet to the David al Yishol. That way is going to be David remembered. He's going to have the yichud. Shaul is going to give to him. Shaul, because Shaul is Amshochas Habina, because Shaul Merchavis Hanor. He's Merchavis Hanor. His level of Bina. Bina is the level of Merchavis Hanor. It's going to be Mamshich. Ba'yidei zeh Hamshochas HaKeser, and that you'll get the Keser Ba'atorah Shitruleimei, in the crown the Itruleimei. So in both Inyonim, in the Pasik and in the Chodesh is the same concept, that through the level of bittel, through the level of yipoket meshavecha, or the level of the bittel of the levana, we get the hamshocha on Chodesh, or Shaul from Rechavis Hanor gives the hamshocha from Keser Ma'al Mishtalshlus to Zoh, to create that union between Zoh and Malchus, between Shaul and David, the Shemesh and the Yerech. So through bittel, you actually get to Keser. So the Rebbe asks, the Tzarich Lov, we need to understand, the Nivkadeto Loshin Zekorim, the Loshin Pikida, Nivkadeto is what? A language remembering. David will be remembered. Malchus will be remembered. Even more than that, Beloshe Pekida, not just remembered, he will be intimately remembered. The level of Yichud will be united. Nifkadet Lifkoid, he will be remembered. That's the Loshe of Nifkadeto. And then you're saying Ki Yipoket, Vi Yipoket, is Loshe Chisoren is lacking, that he's not there. Hem l'chayre shnei hafochim. They are seemingly two opposite, lacking with remembering and lacking with the Pekida Yichud are two opposite. Ve'eich efsher shal yidei yipoket yivin ifkadeto. How is it possible that through lacking that will bring about the nifkadeto? Seems that it's pocket means lacking. How could lacking bring to the level of zikaron and yichud? So so even though the fact that your seat will be lacking, it doesn't mean just lacking. It means bittul, self-effacement. It means the fact that your place will be lacking. It's tied to the concept of bittul. Bittul magia bekeser kinal. And bittul reaches up till keser, as we said before. Shemimenu nimshach hakoyach al hayichud. So from there, the power, the strength for that yichud of Zal Malchus takes place from keser. So what's the question? This is l'chayra. That's why Pikida nifkad, when you're chisorin, when you're bittel, which is not really a chisorin, a lacking, it means a level of bittel which can reach into the highest level of keser, which allows for the vinifkadeto, which allows for keser. Mikol. So, but still we have to understand mizeh shepirush yipoked mishavechahu. But what is the meaning your seat will be lacking? We're not saying that it's going to be coming to Keser Bittel. It's mashma hu sheyiyeh moshavcha choser. What we're saying is your seat will be lacking. Mashma, so it appears the zeh sheyipoked moshavecha hu tam al v'nifkadeta. The reason that your seat will be lacking is the reason why you'll be remembered. I mean, you're being remembered because your seat is lacking. It's not only because when your seat is lacking, it's tied, that's bittel. Elagam sheyipoked mishavecha atzmoi. But just the fact that just the lacking, that your seat is lacking, that your seat is lacking, that's the reason for you will be remembered. Not only as we explained, because when you're lacking your seat, that represents bittel, and bittel reaches to keser, and therefore it's mamshich, the level of v'nifkadita, but the lacking itself. But tzarich lahavin, so we need to understand. Eich shayich, how is it fit? Sheyipoked loshon chisoron maybe live nifkadita. That when you are lacking, yipoket, which is lacking, brings to remembering, brings to the highest level. So the Rebbe doesn't accept just the answer that bittul brings keser. He wants to see the pasuk is matched with the, not that it brings keser, the lacking itself brings the v'nifkadeto. Move on. And also, it's not understood the mizeh nemar yipoked moshavech. Again, it says your seat will be yipoked. Lo yechasar moshavech. Doesn't say you'll be lacking, it just says yipoked. Loshen pikida. So this is a language of pikida. Mashma, it appears, shahashaychus, the yipoked levinifkadeto, that the connection between yipoked and v'kadeto, who loy rak, sheyipoked maybe uvinifkadeto. It's not only yipoked brings to nifkadeto, elo shebiyipoked atzma yesh behelem inya v'nifkadeto, but rather in your pocket itself, there is in a hidden way the idea of nifkadato. So you have that's why you use it lotion of your pocket, not your pocket bittel, but in the lacking is your pocket. There is the level of nifkadato within your pocket itself, that in a hidden way is the idea of nifkadato. That's why the nifkadato ki your pocket. In the pocket is the nifkadato more. So that's what the Rebbe explains now. That we need to understand how is it that the chisorin, the pocket, brings to the level of an ifkadet. Okay, we'll leave it here and we'll be mamshich, yeah?
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.